What's good, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Goats of Growth. Please subscribe, rate, and review if you haven't already. And like always, the J. David Group, which is my company, sponsoring this episode. We help recruit today's go-to-market teams that will lead the next generation of unicorns. Email me, web@thejdavidgroup.com to learn more about how we can help. And don't forget, I'm working on a book with the same name, The Goats of Growth, the untold stories of the greatest revenue leaders of all time. You listen to this podcast, I'm obsessed with how they get it done. And so I'm putting it into a book due out the end of 2023. So follow me on LinkedIn to learn more about that. Now, my guest today is Phil Lee, Chief Revenue Officer of Foxit, which is a leading provider of fast, affordable, and secure PDF solutions, serving over 650 million users worldwide. Phil, welcome to the Goats of Growth.
Jay, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really looking forward to having our conversation. If I can just maybe get a sentence in your next book, that would be honorable to be considered in such a group of people. So
yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and that's where I wanted to lead off with you, because obviously you've had some amazing growth over there at Foxit, which I want to get into, and also talk about the next phase of growth that you're entering into now. But let's just start there. Tell me a little bit about Foxit. Your time there and what Foxit does.
Sure. Love to, Jay. So Foxit's been in business since 2020. It was founded by Eugene Xiong. And that story is unique in itself, but basically he wanted to create a technology company that had a little bit of a high bar to enter. And he felt the PDF ecosystem provided that for him. I actually joined it about 12 years ago. And at that time, Foxit was still relatively small, around a $3 million a year company. And we've grown significantly in the last 12 years. We consider ourselves a $100 million company, and our footprint is global. We deliver easy to use desktop software, mobile apps, and cloud services to make knowledge workers more productive, with a focus on PDF and e-signature solutions. So myself, I've been in technology for well over 30 years, with the tying it back to document services and software. So it's been a great journey. In technology, when you have a lot of tenure, people usually scratch their head and go, why and how, right? It's like, technology always changes. But the thing, with Foxit, which is fun, is we are innovative. What we do today is certainly not what we did 10, 12 years ago. And what we'll do tomorrow will absolutely be different than what we're doing today. So as you mentioned before, we have literally hundreds of millions of users. Our technology is what drives the PDF services behind Google Chrome and Google Docs, when you take that into consideration. Plus, we have our own user base, well over 100,000 customers and well over millions of daily, monthly users.
And with what you just said there about how your technology drives, the engine behind Google Docs and other technologies, has the go-to-market strategy been to through partners and channels? In other words, to build relationships with other technology companies that could get Foxit in the hands or in the desktop, so to speak, or in the cloud of all your users? Tell me about how that's been.
Well, it started off, it was purely a technology-driven company, and they offered a software development kit for people that wanted to render and view, or basically view PDF files and annotate PDF files on, at that time, desktop applications, mostly by Windows. Mm-hmm. So the company or Eugene led the effort of having a application or a software development kit that was cross-platform. So it supported Windows, it supported Linux, it supported mobile, and the footprint of that executable was extremely small. And at that time, there really wasn't any alternatives to the market leader. Adobe invented PDF. They did some great things and still continue to do in supporting that ecosystem. And what made that technology so attractive is that it was cross-platform, and that attracted users and early investors like Amazon and the Amazon Kindle platform. That's why they came to Foxit, because of the fact that if you viewed a PDF file, it viewed exactly the same way no matter what platform you were on. So as that company developed and it was, as Eugene bootstrapped it, they decided that, hey, if we have this SDK, let's move more into the application. And at that time, I joined the company a couple years after that. And then they saw, hey, let's get into the competition on the desktop application and mobile application. And, we started it. And again, we were an alternative, priced accordingly. And it was something that kind of took off. We already had a large group of users, organic user base, using the Foxit Reader. So we started monetizing that user base with applications. That evolved to mobile. And then in the last few years, we've evolved that to also support leading edge cloud services. We've done some acquisitions over the course of the year to expand our product portfolio to not only handle desktop PDF editing, but enterprise automation around managing PDF file formats from mass conversion to OCR, as well as take the SDK or the software developer kits and enlarge those. But Jay, one of the things that Foxit's really doing now, and it's transformational, is we've gotten to the point where we've been pretty successful as a software company, but our goals is to get to $250 million to $500 million a year in revenue. And in order to do that, we are doing a paradigm shift in which the focus of direct selling and e-commerce is moving more towards a channel first policy, in which we're really engaging with the major channel and distributors worldwide in order to expand our footprint, leverage their massive teams of people, and accelerate our go-to-market model.
So up until this point, it had been primarily direct, and now you're, like you said, you're changing a little bit of a paradigm shift, and now you want to make more of your sales come through channel as opposed to direct.
That's correct. We'll continue to support, direct selling. We know even going through the channel, giving the Foxit brand in some of our products, we're still going to be heavily involved, but utilizing the channels and those partnerships to get a broader reach worldwide. And when people are looking for the services that we're offering, yes.
Now, tell me, what do you need to learn? In other words, what do you not know now that you need to learn, or that you are currently learning as not only yourself, but as an organization, in order to execute on that and accelerate that growth through the channel?
Well, we are building the team out. It's led by Dave Allison, who has a long history in the channel space. But when you compete against a very dominant market leader like Adobe, and they're well over $10-15 billion company, and they're one of the premier offerings through the channel when you get to the amount of revenue they generate for them, it's how does Foxit, who doesn't have the awareness or the brand against the market leader, really position itself? I mean, the easy model is, okay, we'll give you more margin, because most channels are top line market margin driven. We can do that, but the thing is, we got to make it very easy for them. They have to begin to trust us, right? And understand that this effort is for the long term. Okay. We're not coming into the channel and think, hey, it was a little bit more bumpy than what we thought, so we're going to pull out. No, we're committed. It's basically for forever. And we have to learn how to develop those relationships. So when one of their customers, right, who they know and have the relationships with, is interested in an alternative solution or interested in a new solution around PDF editing, processing, or e-signature, that Foxit comes to top of mind. And we have to learn how to do that. We do it now, but we want to be able to do it a lot better.
Right. And so does that mean how much of your organization now is direct sellers, and what percentage of them are channel sellers?
So the channel seller right now is less than 20%, but our direct sales team will be aligned with the channel. So a large portion of their selling will be to the channel. So you can almost say 100% of our company will be supporting the channel as we move forward. Yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question quite, but that's our plan. So not only on the direct sales, we have to do it in support, we have to do it in customer success, we have to do it in retention, we have to leverage the channel with our existing partners, because we also are going through a paradigm shift of moving more towards SaaS or subscription. We offer both SaaS and subscription pricing today, along with perpetual, but we want to move more towards the subscription model moving forward, because basically that's what the market expects.
I was just about, you took the question out of my mouth, which why that shift, but that's why. And does that, you mentioned easy, you said you want to make it easy for the partners and build trust. How do you go about doing that? How do you go about making it easy for them to work with you?
Well, that's a good question. So you got to certainly have a channel partner portal, so all the information is there. But most importantly, when you look at what the products we're offering and where our real strength is let's say SMB and mid market, is you got to make the ordering process, order fulfillment, and the delivery of the licenses extremely easy and with as little friction as possible. One of the things that intrigues us a great deal is MSPs, or managed service providers. They want to add licenses on a daily basis. They want to be able to co-term those licenses. So even a small business and even the large businesses want to do that, are enterprises. So that interface, from a standpoint where we would manage all of that ourselves, the company has to transform itself from the customer being the end user to where the customer is actually the channel, right? They're our customers. We have to make them happy. I mean, one of our biggest partners right now and customers is Dell, and it's known. It's a great partnership, and it's something that we have a model that's worked, and now we have to take that model and expand it across your common, two-tier distributor channel model. So we got to train them. We got to make sure they have all the information that they need so they can properly present the value proposition, and then make it easy for them to order and fulfill.
How do you equip your, let's say 80%, I guess, of your sales team with the right information and ability to shift what they're doing? In other words, if now they're selling directly to end users, it's a different sales motion, the different messages. And now, to your point, the end user or your customer are the channel, right? People that are, your partners and the people within those organizations. And I would imagine that obviously that playbook is different. How do you equip your team with that? And then how do you go about, making sure that they are successful in that new role? Maybe, tell me about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, we relied upon our own channel team to give us some recommendations, because they have extensive experience in this model and have gone through the paradigm shift. But the first thing that we did is we removed the barrier from the sales rep, from a standpoint of, if I sell direct, I'll generate more revenue than going through the channel. Okay, so we made that we remove that barrier from the sales rep. It doesn't matter if they sell to the end user or to the channel. In essence, their quota gets relieved at the exact same amount. So that was first thing. The second thing is to have the channel itself who have existing relationships, lead the effort to make those introductions in order to build this relationship and introduce Foxit. The other thing is, when you go channel first, then we're going to do our fulfillment orders that people would want to buy directly from us. And we're going to take those orders and we're going to fulfill them through our channel partners. So of course, that's, as they say, it's like we feed it and then hopefully we get something back. They're going to understand, like, hey, Foxit is a good company. Their software is fantastic. The best thing about it is there's no customer satisfaction issues because it just works. I mean, it really works. That is what we do best. And their customer success. I can call someone, I'll get them on the line. They appear much bigger than what they really are with their support infrastructure. And, we got to leverage that with the sales team. And, the sales team overcoming the fact that, there is no penalty by going through a channel with reduced margin. That's going to allow them to build those relationships in which the channel then comes back with companies that we're not aware of, new logos that, hey, this organization is interested in these services and we thought of you, right? We don't need to be thought of first. We just want to be thought of and have an opportunity and be put into the game for consideration. And, the team communicates amongst itself using a lot of tools, but we kind of settle in on Microsoft and Teams right now. That's kind of our internal communication tool.
You mentioned the making sure that you take care of your reps, right? To make sure that that the quota is retiring at the same point as before.
Yep.
Did you adjust quota up though in order to cover for the additional expense as it pertains to customer acquisition costs? Because obviously it's going to go, if you're paying the channel partners as well as paying the reps, I'm assuming that there's a different dollar amount there. Is that right or not?
Yeah. You would think that a company would force that. In fact, it would be a false presentation to say, hey, it is a 1-to-1, but I've increased your quota to cover what we expect the average margin. But no, Eugene and the leadership says our channel first process is an investment. Okay. We know we have to make this investment in order to get the respect and cooperation with the channel partners. And it's really, truly 1-to-1. Yeah, it really is. We hope this investment if we give away X amount of percent, that the channel, when they get to know us and understand that the software does work, okay, they do what they say what they do, then we get recommended into new opportunities. So this investment has a return. And that is really what we're focused on. And we feel confident that we'll get that return when we make that investment.
Got it. So in other words, that investment, you're looking for the return to come when you prove what you can do with your channel partners. And then now they're introducing you to more opportunities. And those other opportunities are going to be, let's say, less of an investment, right? Than initially, right? Because the company didn't necessarily have to do the same thing to get them.
That's correct. Let's say our margin is 10%, right? If we give up 10%, that we do anticipate that the channel will deliver back a minimum of 10% in net new logos or net new business. And then we do anticipate over the years that 10% will grow and we'll have a much better net positive result. Now, there's a lot of emerging software companies that are competing in the same pool, right? When you look at the channel, everybody wants to say the same thing. Use us. We're the best. We know that we've gotten to ourselves to 100 million. We're building the team, but we're in it for the long term. I mean, we are absolutely dedicated to leveraging the channel and their customer base to grow our overall revenue and expand our customers.
You mentioned how solid the product is and that presumably there's low churn, if you will. Yep. How much of the growth to get to, say, $250 million and eventually to $500 million is going to come, or do you, I guess, hope to come from growth from existing users, existing accounts?
I mean, it would be great if we can get 10 to 15 to 20% of existing customers to grow as we bring in new product lines. But the whole idea is actually gain market share. We need more customers as well as more product offerings and services to get to our overall goals and future aspirations. We are introducing new products. There are going to be more to come, but in this particular industry, there is opportunity to spread our wings and garner more market share.
How do you differentiate when there is so much competition that's out there? As you smile, I'm sure you've asked yourself this every day for the last 12 years, but what are some of the learnings that you've found? What are you thinking about as you move forward?
Yeah, well, they're and like the PDF and the e-sign industry, they're both dominated by market leaders. One being Adobe and the other one being DocuSign. All right, and then there's another half a dozen companies that you can say are tier two and offer competitive products, and we understand that, and we're one of those in both those offerings. But it's a good question, and I'll be extremely transparent. I worked for Adobe in my past, and I've done a lot of things with Acrobat in my career. Okay, I can actually say I've influenced these features. It's a really good product. Okay, customers know that. It may not be their number one product, but it's been a flagship product of Adobe for a long time. However, when you look at that particular product and you look at our product, there's almost 100% parity. Okay, you can argue some things. We may have one more feature in this particular use case. Adobe may have one more feature in that particular use case. But when it really comes down to some of the things that we say is we're a better fit. What that means is we do both perpetual and subscription pricing. Okay, so we'll give you the ability of deploying the product across multiple platforms and multiple languages. We'll have better flexibility. When I say that is if there's something specific that a customer wants, or they would like to see something where they're using a third-party plugin tool and they don't want to do that anymore. They want it native in the application. We'll develop that feature specifically for a customer base or for a vertical. And then finally, our prices is more competitive. Okay, we state we'll save anybody between 30 and 50%, and at times that's very attractive. But people usually don't leave Adobe because Acrobat doesn't work. They just want a company that is more focused on them, appreciates their business, and realizes that everything they say and do and everything that Foxit says it does, they actually do. They just don't show up every third year saying, here's your renewal and can you sign here and thank you very much. I can say that again. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to a competitor, but these are the things that customers tell us. Now we know that in order to grow to the size that we need to grow, we're going to have to do a little bit more than finding customers that are unhappy, right? Proactively looking for a switch or alternative. We know that we have to increase our awareness using the channel first approach, realizing that there is options out there. And at the end of the day, when you look at an option and it works for you, and it could be considered a commodity, both an e-signature or PDF, it's going to benefit you if you're going to stay with your existing provider or change to a new provider, because the stuff just works. It's very easy to implement and deploy. In often cases, it's rip and replace. But we have hundreds and thousands of instances where we've done that in a very short period of time. It's almost like, hey, I use Verizon, and now I want to go to AT&T. So people do that all the time, and it's usually driven by financial reasons. And we understand in the competitive world that we know we can do that, and we can make it easy. So that's our cost.
Let me ask you this: what has worked in the past? In other words, to get from 3 million to 100 million, that is not working now, that you need to change as it pertains to messaging, right? In other words, because 12 years ago, I'd say it was a lot easier to get people's attention through traditional means, cold calling, email, the same kind of playbook. And now obviously that's changed, certainly just with the advent of so many other ways, other channels of communicating and reaching people. So what has worked then? What was in that playbook then? And what is in the playbook now as it continues to evolve?
So back then, people were looking for Foxit offered the Foxit Reader. And then the Foxit Reader was actually put on many computers or laptops as the native PDF application. Okay. Also at that time, people had to download a reader because the browsers and the systems PDF was not native to the OS. Mm-hmm. So when they went through that process and they looked at their alternatives, we came up. Okay, so the messaging was people were kind of looking for something. They saw our website, that really hasn't changed, and we had a lot of organic growth, and people would download, trial, and buy, and we rode that wave for a long time and had significant hyper growth. In today's world, first off, the OS have the PDF reader application embedded, so that limits, if not eliminates, the need of having just a reader application or to look at something different. Then it goes to brand only, right? And when you look at brand, you think about PDF, you usually think about one company. So the things, and this is a really good question because it's one of the major initiatives that I'm trying to focus on beyond, channel first in 2023 is we have to improve our digital marketing efforts, right? We still are fortunate enough to have millions of visitors on a monthly basis. Now we have to look at doing things better to identify that customer base or profile, managing those customers, doing a better job if they trial the software, how they're using the software, when's the right time for them, identifying if they're really a consumer, a micro business, a small business, mid-market, or enterprise, and adjust our messaging accordingly. Because we still are very fortunate to have a large amount of organic users in the PDF or eSign ecosystem leverage us, and then we just have to capture them to make sure that if you are looking for these types of services, you're safe with choosing Foxit.
And when you say millions of visitors that are coming to your website, and folks, you said in early days found you, I would imagine that was what, SEO. In other words, you were optimizing. Well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're right. There was a lot of SEO and something that we always optimize, but really 10 years ago, there was even fewer PDF players, right? There was actually maybe 5. Mm-hmm. If you look now with the emergence of cloud, the COVID situation where people started looking at how do I get my PDF applications for home? I got to do a lot of remote training. My kids are no longer going to school. There was a lot of players that entered the market. And to be honest with you, that individual that wasn't enterprise, we used to do capture a lot of that marketplace. It became much more competitive. So we have to look at changing our game to regain our strength in that mid market. As well as 3 years ago, we made a big play to get heavy into the enterprise because we could compete with Adobe at the enterprise. But with the COVID scenario, changing a PDF application wasn't the highest priority.
Right.
In the last 3 years. Right.
Right. Well, so I was going to ask you, I mean, what did you need to, what changed, I guess, in your messaging and in your overall approach going from mid-market to enterprise? I don't know how much time you gave it. Maybe there wasn't, you didn't give it enough time, so you can't really answer that question specifically, but I'm curious.
Well, I think the main message, if you get to the enterprise, is they all use PDF. PDF is the most ubiquitous file format. It's an application that usually gets deployed to a large percentage, if not the entire organization. So if you're going to go in and change, then it is a rip and replace scenario. Okay. Rip and replace is something that makes most, IT departments, or the chief technology or the CIO, consider, do we really want to do this? All right, if you're going to save me X amount of money, is it going to waterfall or evolve that I lose that savings through retraining and things like that? So it is something that we've tried to message. We know we can do a better job at it, but truly, changing a PDF application, since it is an open standard and it's a very, very mature marketplace, as long as you offer security, ease of use, and the support that's expected at the enterprise or even a small business level, you should be able to enter that market in a very competitive way. And we believe we have. One of the things is we just commissioned a study by Forrester. Okay, Forrester looked at the study. They took 4 large enterprise customers globally from different industries and did a study on the amount of savings that they captured by moving to Foxit. And those savings are tremendous. The payback is in less than 6 months. In fact, they mentioned that they've never seen such a use case or user experience that had such promising returns. And there's reasons why. Our software works, and I can't emphasize that enough. And it's very secure, and the people are all customer centric. We've always had to fight. I can tell you that probably 90% of the customers that we've have used to be with our competitor. And I'll tell you this, Jay, we have like so little attrition. Okay. When we have a customer, they stay with us. And
well, it sounds like you had mentioned it a couple of times, but just to double click on it, it sounds like your ability your intention to support your customers and to over deliver on that is certainly a competitive advantage for you. And that's part of your go-to-market strategy as well. Is that right?
It's correct. Yeah. We really emphasize our support, both pre and post sales. We really do emphasize you can get a hold of people. We still post a phone number. You can call and actually talk to someone to get support. And believe it or not, we do that for people that use our free reader as well, that license our software, because that's always the way that we've been. And it's allowed us to be who we are today. And I think that's kind of unique in the industry. And it's been fortunate for us, and it's also been very successful for us, Jay.
I want to go back to something you said a little bit ago, which is digital marketing as the next thing that you're focusing on as it pertains to executing on growth. When you say digital marketing, you mean maybe learning more about the customer journey and where they are and how to message them? And does that also involve new technology? In other words, to add to your tech stack, so you're remarketing or something? Give me a sense of what that means for you.
Well, that's a really good question, and so it does require some investments in new technology. First off, you got to make sure that your SEO is optimized. Identify what the keywords are. Look at your campaigns and make sure that your attribution models are productive. If you spend money on these campaigns, what's giving you your highest ROI? So in the last 12 months, we've implemented attribution, a pretty sophisticated attribution model. The next thing is, how do you manage your customer data through that journey? So what are the triggers that you're looking for? So the product has to have triggers built into it that let us, without doing anything regarding privacy, but letting people know that they downloaded the product, they set up the service, they're using the service, they've come to the end of their trial, et cetera, et cetera. And you got to have all the pieces in place to optimize that. You also have to have the personalized messaging as well on your email marketing applications. Is it a micro business? Is it an enterprise? Are they testing Foxit Editor? PDF editor Pro, or PDF editor Pro Plus? Are they looking at e-signature? So there's a lot of variables, and what we're doing is basically common practice in the industry. And there's a set of tools that are offered to help you manage all that, from your CRM to your customer database to your SEO optimization. And we leverage a lot of tools in order to ensure that we can look at the industry, at our customer base, and grow it as efficiently as we possibly can. So hopefully that answered your question. But I mean, to summarize, there's a lot of tools out there. You got to make sure that you do your proper evaluation. Our CRM is Salesforce, so we focus on Salesforce and Salesforce partners. And then we look for those tools that can help optimize it. So
here's a question I haven't asked yet on this podcast that just comes to mind, that I kind of want to start asking more, which is, what is your buying process? In other words, there are a lot of people, frankly, maybe even listening to this podcast, that sell to sales leaders, right? That sell sales enablement tools and those kinds of things, right? Database, leads and all the other stuff, right? What is your buying process? What are you looking for? What gets your attention in your inbox, or however
is that
else?
me? Like me personally?
Yeah, you personally, yeah.
Okay. I'm personally impressed if I go to a website and they know I was there because I raised my hand, that they follow up immediately with me, both usually in a phone call, because most people can easily find Phil Lee, with an email, and from a cadence standpoint, that they know I was looking and how can I help you? Okay, so I'm always impressed by that. I think that's a great system. It actually helps me define what I think we need to do as a company as well. But I try to keep myself abreast of what type of technology is out there. I have no fear to call someone else that is an expert, because I certainly don't know. I look to my peers on what do you think, what do you use? I'll get engaged with those customers as well. And if they're a partner with Salesforce, I'll go right to Salesforce. Tell me about them. Why do you think they're a good partner of yours, as an example? And I just try to educate myself. I don't make all our buying decisions from A to Z. I'll bring in my team that may have much more domain expertise than I do. Like, certainly from a let's just say, if there's a tool that I need to do outbound demand generation, okay, and my team lead has used a couple of them, I will ask them specifically what the pros and cons are. Which one would you prefer to use? If using them, does it make a lot of sense? And then we'll go in and negotiate. And at the end of the day, too, and this is something we're starting to do more of as we become a larger organization. It's like, hey, if I'm going to use your services, what's your PDF and e-sign application? And you need to take in consideration in using mine, right? If it makes sense. So
yeah,
me as a personal experience. Yeah. And I don't think it's unusual.
Of course.
That way.
Well, I find it interesting that you started off that answer by saying, when I go to a website and raise my hand, which tells me that, it's the way buying is done now, where you're out there fact finding. In other words, in order for you to initially even go to that website, either you're on Google first, looking for typing in whatever keyword you're, interested in, or maybe there's let's say a blog that they may have written that you found interesting, that you're coming to their website. So when you think about that, and buyers are are more informed now, I think, than they ever were, and I think each day is going to continue that way, right? Where buyers are going to be more informed before they even engage with a salesperson. Does a cold call or a cold email or even a cold text to Phil Lee work is in the same way that you just described as far as raising your hand on somebody's website, where it's
I'm not receptive to cold texts. I'll say that.
okay.
But if someone does cold call me, and my phone tells me, if I know them or not. But given the fact that I come from being a salesperson, given the fact that I used to sell copiers, cold calling door to door when I got out of college, I'm sympathetic, and oftentimes I'll pick the phone up and I'll answer it, and I'll say, okay, hey, all right, what's your pitch? And I'll be very sincere and upfront with them. No, I'm not interested, or yeah, I would be interested at this at a later date.
Mhm.
But I try to use all channels. I'll use Chrome and Google. I usually use Edge and Bing for various reasons. But one thing I found very interesting is I'll use the LinkedIn Learning. I'll use my LinkedIn feed to give me some ideas. I also use Twitter with their technology. Like, I'm interested in technology, and people post some really interesting things there, right? It usually drives you to go find their website because of the limited amount of characters. And I even use TikTok, right, to look at things. I wake up every morning, fairly early. First thing I do is make my wife a cup of coffee because I owe her that. And I'll sit down, I'll turn on the financial channels, I'll watch that for a little bit. And, something interesting pops up there. So, there's so much information available, where you go and how you go about finding something that can make your business better or make you better as a person or a manager. I try to be as open-minded as I possibly can. Jay, I'm not this over-disciplined person, right? There's one thing in my life I wish I had more discipline, but I just use the tools that are in front of me, and I'm not a young man, right? And I'm not a Gen Z or a millennial, but I compete in a technology area in which you have to be open-minded. You've got to continually learn in order to make sure the products you're offering are what people need and want, product market fit. So I really try to use all the tools available to me to find something new. But I do hope, and as technology evolves, people are contacting me when they look at Foxit, who we are, how we're growing, the industry that we're in. If they're persistent and have a good digital marketing campaign, and they execute against it, they'll get my attention. And that's the same thing I'm trying to do is to get other people's attention to grow this business. It just, I don't know how else to address it, but what works for the goose should work for the gander, and why not?
That's right. That's right. You mentioned we a number of times in team. Who within Foxit are your partners, if you will, right, in this to really help you, tap into this market and gain more market share? Who are you regularly communicating with and leaning on to get all this done?
I think is an organization, any organization, you have your sales arm and your marketing arm. And in today's world, the two are so closely and tightly fit. So they are vital for the success of a company. But the culture driven by Foxit and the leaderships and the founders is everyone's important. We're a global footprint. In fact, we're very global for the size of the company, and that brings up a lot of challenges. But we need the solutions, right? The support arm of our company, because we promote it so much. We think it's a differentiator. So they have to ensure that they do provide the support. We talk about how good our products are, right? So R&D has to get that information and make sure that product management gathers the requirements of what our customers want, and R&D delivers on that. And then our QC has to ensure that when that product does go out, it is of high quality, because given the fact that you're number 2 in the marketplace and people are evaluating you to replace an existing product, it's got to work. And those are the things that we do. And you have to have executive sponsorship, but every department in an organization, I firmly believe this. I was at Dreamforce about 10 years ago, and Colin Powell was I think the prominent guest, and he talked about purpose, passion, and team. Okay, and how you, in his experience as a leader. So it's up to you as the leader to tell somebody what their purpose is. Okay, it's up to the individual to have the passion to execute against that purpose, and then you have to build a team environment because the sum of the parts always exceed the individual components. And if you can focus on that through those three pillars, okay, you can be a successful organization. And I took that to heart. It's actually the foundation of every employee that we bring into this company. I talk about, and because I think it works, and I have proof that it does work. So you got to understand what your purpose is, bring the passion, operate as a team, and we'll win both professionally and personally if you use those principles in life.
Yes, for sure. Tell me then, as you evaluate talent and you're looking at bringing on new team members, like what are the core characteristics? What are the core characteristics that you want to see each member of your team have?
I really want that team, that individual, to bring honesty to the position. I want that individual to aspire both personally and professionally to always be at a higher level. If it's a sales organization, I mean, if it's a sales position, that's like, hey, you want to be rich? In simple terms, the answer is I hope, yeah, right? Because, they're coin operated. If it's, that particular position in which it is, because you know what, if you aspire and you make more money, the company's going to be successful, right? Some people want to be individual contributors. Some people eventually want to be managers, but they want to be managers for the right reason, not just for the fact that, I've been an individual contributor for 3 to 5 years. Is my next step to be a manager? It may not be, right? You're so good at it as an individual contributor, you'll just have more responsibility to manage larger accounts with more people. But, the thing is do they feel comfortable, speaking to you? Do they answer the questions concise? Do they have future goals that they can explain? Okay. Can they tell you why they want this particular position, or why do they want to work for this particular company? And if they can explain those things, and then I think that's a way to start a relationship, because I don't really know you, right? But I will get to know you much better. And I'm telling you what you can expect, right? What your purpose is. I'm looking for you to tell me how your internal passion will allow you to strive to meet the purpose goals. And then finally, are you willing to be a team player to make that happen? So again, it kind of always ties back to purpose, passion, and team.
Fantastic. All right. We're coming to the end of the hour here, but we always like to get into the rapid fire 5 before we go, which is I ask you 5 questions, you give me 5 answers, and then I'll ask you what question you would like to ask the next guest.
Sure, let's go.
All right. Question number 1. What motivates you?
I think in today's time, what motivates me the most is to ensure that people that I can help influence or interact with reach the goals that they feel are most important in life. Okay. I don't really have this financial motivation goal. That's been achieved, but that's one thing. The other thing that motivates me from a business point of view is I want us to become that 250 or that $500 million company.
Name a big, well, maybe you just answered it, but I'll ask it anyways. Name a big goal you have right now, and when would you like to accomplish it?
I want us, from a business point of view, I want Foxit to become that $250 million company. That is something that I know so many people have put in so much effort, that we know that our products are so good and our support is so satisfactory, that we want more people to experience our tools in order to accomplish their business goals. So maybe a little but that would be great to achieve.
Do you have a date by which you think you can accomplish that? No pressure.
Oh, let's say within 5 years.
Fair enough. I'm going to invite you back in 5 years, by the way, and we're going to talk about that.
Somebody else did that. They asked me by the time we hit a certain, and we hit it a year early.
There you go.
Maybe invite me back in 4 years, right?
There you go. There you go. What's your most preferred way to learn information to stay sharp?
So I think the most preferred way is through the web. I wish I had more discipline to read books. I do read books, but I don't read them as often as I probably should. But going through the web is probably my most preferred method to initiate my learning experience, and then having a one-on-one communication with an individual, whoever they may be, that's actually the knowledge, has knowledge, expertise, or an expert in that, is to have a one-on-one talk with them, or communication with them. I think if you can have a conversation with someone who's already been there, their insight that they can give you is enormous and so valuable. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to have a few of those conversations, but I would like to have a lot more.
Partly why I love doing this podcast, because I get to interview smart people like you at least once a week to dump their brains and experience into my brain. How many hours of sleep do you average per night before you wake up and make your wife that well-deserved cup of coffee?
5.
What's your favorite thing to do when you aren't working?
Play golf.
How often?
Not enough, but as often as I can, because I can also think freely as I walk down the fairway. Yeah,
absolutely. So here's the bonus question that comes from one of my past guests, which is, what's the one thing that you've learned or did, perhaps even a habit, that changed everything for you, that made all the difference in your success?
All the difference in my the one thing I did, or the one thing I did, or the one thing I learned?
One thing did or learned, basically. He did or learned, and maybe even developed a habit, whatever it is that changed everything for you, and presumably everything meaning for the better, right?
So when I was a younger guy, and I was always intrigued by technology, and so I was early on when it came to the digital transformation, and I worked for a company, and I wanted to expand myself a little bit, and so I went out and I looked at the industry, and I found a particular company who was the industry leader. And at this time, I lived in Cincinnati, and this company was in Atlanta, where I live now. Mm-hmm. And I went down and I interviewed with the owner, because it was a family-owned business. And I was considering, Atlanta. I was also considering Chicago. And Chicago would have been more of a corporate organization, and not family-owned. But when I met with them, they asked me, okay, yeah, you came down here as an individual contributor, but here we are, and I need a manager to lead this effort. And I was young, and I remember going back home, and I sat down, I talked to my dad, right? And I said, I'm a little scared. And he goes, Phil, do you believe you can do it? And I said, yes. He goes, well, if you believe, and you got to challenge yourself, you got to make yourself uncomfortable to change, you need to do it. And that's probably the best advice, one of the best advices I ever had, where you have to get out of your comfort zone if you want to improve as a person, right? And that comfort zone, actually, you got to get out of your comfort zone if you want to improve as a company, as a person, no matter what you do in life, if you just want to expand and grow. And, that's something I started, applying in any position that I held, or even, first off, going on a road show and speaking to people that might have had, 400 people in the audience, when I've never made a presentation to more than 15 people in the audience. But, those are the types of things that I had to get comfortable with, or going from 3 million to 100 million. Ensuring that you hire people that know more than you. It's okay. Okay. That's why you're hiring them. Yeah. It's, you got to get out of your comfort zone. Even doing this webinar, Jay, I don't do these that often, but I mean, to your, what the beauty of it is, you make me feel very comfortable, and you're asking questions that are pertinent. And, luckily I have a response. I don't know if the answer's right or not, but at least give you my opinion. And, those are the things that I learned and I try to apply, right? I mean, I can tell you a story about myself, and I'm by far no unicorn, but I've had a lot of challenges in life and had to change in order to address those. And God willing, I've been able to succeed at it. But I guess that advice my dad gave me, I try to give to everyone else, in which, hey, you need to stretch yourself and put yourself into positions that you may feel uncomfortable the first time you do them, or the second time you do them. But the more you do them, the more comfortable you will become. And you'll show others that, what, I may reach out like that person, expand myself like that person, in order to become, a better person, either personally or professionally.
That's awesome. And I think that goes back to the word purpose that you were saying earlier, when you talk about purpose, people, and team, and the fact that when you have a purpose, when you're doing something on purpose, intentionally, I think that helps you to get out of your comfort zone a little bit more and grow, because you know what that North Star is, what that purpose of, why you're doing what it is that you're doing. And I think that you're tying that growth to that purpose, I think is key as well.
Yes.
So what question would you want me to ask the next person who will also be a go-to market leader within a tech company?
What piece of technology in your sales stack has made the biggest difference in accomplishing the goals that you have set for yourself? I'd be interested to know. Was it the CRM? Was it demand generation? Was it customer data platform? But what do you believe you chose that made the biggest difference in accomplishing your goals?
I love it. What piece of technology in your sales stack made the biggest difference? What do you believe you chose that made the biggest difference in accomplishing your goals?
Yeah.
I'm already anxious to hear that answer. Phil, how can folks reach out to you to say thank you, perhaps maybe follow up on some questions I didn't ask, if you are hiring over there at Foxit, how should they go about doing that? Tell us about how people should reach you.
Well, the best way is just email me, Phil_Lee@foxitsoftware.com is the easiest and best way. You can find Phil Lee on LinkedIn. You can ping me there too. I read all my email, and I do respond.
And make sure you put the Goats of Growth podcast in the subject line to get extra special attention from Phil, right?
I'll be absolutely to do that, Jay. I'll post this on LinkedIn and try to do my best. I really I'll do everything I can to find myself accessible. Right.
Fantastic. Phil Lee, thank you for being on the Goats of Growth.
Jay, thank you so much. It's been a great time. You're good at this. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
I'm doing the music, everybody.